Your next guest sees some opportunities in the dogs of the Dow. That's a blast from the past. Here with more on what she's positioning for in the year ahead is Marianne Bartels, Chief Investment Strategist over at Sanctuary Wealth. This is a resonating one with me because maybe many of our viewers and listeners know at one point I worked on Wall Street. I worked for a man named Neil Hennessy at Hennessy Funds. And he was one of the guys that was famously known for putting a mutual fund together, tracking the dogs of the Dow. Why are the dogs now back in fashion in your mind?
I think because the past couple of years, they didn't perform as well, right? Nothing could beat what was happening in technology and AI. But I'm looking for a volatile year, so I'm looking for stability in a portfolio. And one of the ways you add stability is through dividend yields. And one of the old strategies is the dogs of the Dow, where you take the top 10 high-yielding stocks of the Dow by the end of the year. And I think that could add some ballast this year to a portfolio.
There are always investors out there who, I wouldn't say struggle, because that's being dramatic, but they have to tinker around with the idea that high dividend yields are not often just about high dividend payouts themselves outright, but because a stock price has then declined to the point where the dividend yield is much more attractive. Of course, the question becomes whether those dividend yields stay viable. So how exactly do you balance out those particular cross currents?
Well, I'm going to assume the stocks that are in the Dow are going to survive. Not always true, but in this particular case, I think the top 10 are very viable companies. The top one is actually Verizon. It's yielding 6.5%. Not my top pick. I don't think you get a lot of price appreciation, but you can get a great dividend yield. Then you have companies like Chevron, Amgen, and Merck. Those are the next highest yielding. And they look to actually have some price appreciation as well as having some good dividend yield. So that's why I'm talking about the dogs of the Dow. And they were the silent good returners last year. Dogs of the Dow were up 19% last year on a total return basis. So again, I think it's a decent strategy if you look at total return for 2026.
Is there expectation in your mind, and Kelly, I know we were talking about this before, is there expectation in your mind that these stocks could actually appreciate in value more so? I know you said Verizon, maybe not as much, but some of these names could have the possibility of not just those gains, but also the dividend yield on top of them.
Yeah, so you're going to get price appreciation, and you're going to get dividend yield, and you're going to get total return. And that's what a lot of investors forget about, is that dividend yield can add a lot to a return, and as well as add some stability within the portfolio. Now, broadening out, another pocket that has yield that I think could add ballast to a portfolio, and the stocks are performing well, and I expect them to continue to do well, are the banks. The economy is growing. The yield curve is steepening. We're seeing many of these stocks break out. And I know a lot of clients will ask, well, do I want to buy something at a new high? Well, yes, you do sometimes want to buy things at a new high. And I think banks add also very good value.
Just to put a point on the dogs discussion, because I've heard it two different ways. There's dogs, as I understand, it stands for dividend over growth stocks. Is that right? So you're talking about, but then other people think dogs of the Dow are just the worst performers. And if you rotate into those, so wait, often they overlap, but not always. So which are the dogs to you? Are we talking about dividend stocks or the underperformers, or?
In this particular case, they're not all dogs.
Okay.
They're not all bad performers. Some of them have had some very good performers. But yes, in this case, it would be dividends over growth.
Got it, as I figured per the discussion. So then on the financials piece of this, where they've been off to this rip-roaring start, a lot of really strong gains already, where do you think is the most interesting?
In terms of the dogs of the Dow or the markets?
Now just in terms of the financial stocks specifically.
The banks. The banks are the true leaders. So I'm really betting on the banks. But that makes me very confident that we have a strong economy. And it gives me great confidence that the yield curve can continue to steepen, which means there's risk that interest rates can go up at the back end of the curve.